Hello, welcome to online lecture video. So I'll be handling principles of management for 76 BTech students, and the topic is selection process, techniques and instruments. My name is Veena Jaykumar, Assistant Professor, Department of Basic Science and Humanities, Rajagiri School of Engineering and Technology. So this will be the layout by which I will be presenting today's lecture. So you have selection process, then selection techniques and instruments, where you have interviews, tests and assessment centers. We have come across selection, or we have come across the word selection in our daily life. Whether you have got selected for so and so post, or why did you get selected for so and so post. So you might be wondering, what is basically selection? So selection is the process of choosing from candidates from within the organization or from outside the most suitable person for the current position or for the future position. This definition was given by Harold Kuhns. So it's that so many people will be eligible, but you will be selecting from among the various applicants only a few people or few individuals. So this process is called as selection. Now, what is the selection process? Basically, you have 8 steps or 8 procedures in selecting or selection. But that doesn't mean that every organization follows the same procedures. It depends upon the various type of institution. It depends upon the type of institution or type of management as to how the selection process will be. So let us see what are the selection process. So first, it is screening of applications. Here, once you find a vacancy or once you find that there are certain vacancies in an organization, you will be sending your resume. And what happens is that the first process in selection is whereby they'll be screening your applications. All the application will be screened based on certain characteristics, and only those candidates on the basis of screening of applications are invited for further selection process. So if you have applied for a particular job, doesn't mean that you will be called for selection or you will be selected. The first procedure is screening of applications. And once this procedure is over, the next step is selection test. Various tests will be conducted to know what is your potential or whether you are a potential candidate. So various tests that are available in an organization is personality test, aptitude test, interest test, and so on. So basically, selection tests are used to measure various abilities of an individual applicant. Next, you have preliminary interview. So once you are done with the test, the next procedure is for the interview, or next procedure is interview, whereby your appearance, your attitude, your behavior, all these aspects will be known very easily, so that this helps the interviewer to decide whether the applicant is fit for the particular position in an organization. So once you are done with this preliminary interview, or it is also called as courtesy interview. So once you are done with this preliminary interview, they will be proceeding to a reference check. So at the time of filling the application form, you will be asked to give certain references, 1 or 2 references. So at this time, what they do is, they take the references and they verify your information. It doesn't mean that they will go in person and verify your details, but it means that this will be made either through a formal letters or telephonic conversations. And once the reference check is made, next is medical examinations. So it is here where the candidate is required to undergo a physical fitness test. So a job offer depends upon the candidate passing the physical examination test. And once again, I'm reminding you that it is not compulsory that every organization goes through the same selection process. It depends on the type of institution, and it depends on the type of management who undergoes or who makes the selection process. So once medical examinations are over, next is the final interview. This is not the last step in the selection process, but this is the most essential step, whereby the purpose is to verify information that is already collected or already obtained from the candidates, and this is done to know additional information. Now, interview can be formal, it can be informal, it can be stress interview, it can be group interview, it can be panel interview. So which we will be dealing it after the session. And once the interview is conducted, if they feel that you are eligible or you are fit for the job, the next thing is approval. So here suitable candidates are recommended for selection, and before it was like only the lower level or the management decides what is to be done. But now they appoint certain experts in this particular position to give the approval letter. So what happens is that the board of directors is the approving authority for top level managers, and then for lower levels you have functional heads who serves as the purpose of approving authority. And last is placement. So once they approve, you are ready for the job, and they will ask you to report at a particular time or a particular date for the particular position. And what happens is that initially they will be pointing you on a probation basis, and once they feel that you are performing well, once they feel that your performance is up to the mark, they will be taking you, or you will be a part of the permanent staffs in an organization. So last step in our selection process is placement, whereby once you placed, you will be put into probation, and once the probation period gets over, you will be one among the permanent employees of an organization. So let's rewind and let's see the selection process once again. So the selection process is like, first you come up with screening the applications, and then you have certain tests to know how well you perform or whether you are fit for the job. Then you have preliminary interview, then you have a medical examination, you have a final interview, and once it is approved or once after approval, you will be having a placement. So these are the selection process in an organization. So again, I'm pointing out that it may not be the same in every organization. The selection process may vary from organization to organization. So having said what is selection, what are the selection process, let us see certain instruments or techniques in selection. And every process has got its own limitations, or no process or no step can escape the drawbacks. So some of the drawbacks under a selection process is that, one, it is time consuming. Yes, why time consuming? Because you have so many processes coming up. Since there are so many processes involving, it takes time to get approval from every head. So it is time consuming. Since it is time consuming, and since they are employing so many experts for determining your ability or to check your potential, it is expensive, and then certain tests are said to be unfair or discriminatory in nature. For example, police test, when you are being employed or when you are called for a police force, the test given there is discriminatory in nature. So there are certain positions where you have a discriminatory in nature. So it is not equal in every organization, not equal for every position. And last, it is not a sure way to predict people's suitability. You cannot say that the one who outperformed one test is the suitable candidate or is the most potential candidate for a particular post. These are some of the drawbacks of selection process. Now, coming to selection techniques and instruments, you have three selection techniques and instruments. They are interview, test, and assessment centers. Let us see what they are one by one. So first is interview. What is an interview? We all have heard this interview in our daily life, or indirectly we have been a part of interview in the course of life. So interview is basically a purposeful exchange of ideas, the answering of questions, and communication between two or more persons. So you have several types of interview, the main types being preliminary interview, core interview, and decision making interview. Now, under preliminary interview, you have got informal interview or unstructured interview. It is where that the candidates who lost their job or who are unemployed at present will be going to various organizations to check whether there are any vacancies for a particular post, or it might be such that they'll be asking which was the last job or what is the description of your last job. These are the types of preliminary interview. Then you have got a core interview, whereby you have different types of core interview. You have a background information interview. That is, background information interview is where they collect the information that is not available in your application level. So once you are filling your application form, there are certain informations which are not available in the application form. So all those details or information will be collected using background information interview. Or you have a formal and structured interview where specific questions will be asked to the candidates. Then you have got a stress interview to know how you will perform in a stressful situation, or whenever the organization faces a stressful activity, a stressful environment, what will be your contribution, or whether you are fit for a particular post is what they test in the stress interview. And once they take a group interview or a panel interview, it is where that separate cases are given for your panel of experts will be there to judge your potential. And last type of core interview is your depth interview, whereby you examine a candidate's knowledge and skills. It is in detail they will be analyzing your knowledge and skills. So these are the types of core interview. And last is your decision making interview, whereby they will be asking you questions on how you will be, or what is your future prospects, or what are you going to do in future, or if at all you are employed, what is your aim, your mission. So all these situations will be put forward so that you make up a decision on how well you can make a very good decision under certain cases is what is judged in the decision making interview. So these are the type of interview. And the second type of selection test or techniques is test. So test, basically you have different types of tests, and some of the tests are mentioned here. You have aptitude test, intelligence test, psychomotor test, personality test and vocational test. So these are not the only tests available. You have so many tests available in different organizations. It depends upon the type of organization. So one thing is that aptitude test is where they used to measure the human performance or human performance characteristics related to possible development of proficiency on specific jobs. Then you have intelligence test. It is said that the intelligent employee, or every intelligent employee performs much better than that of a dull employee. So this is the reason why certain organization has got intelligence test. That is merely to measure the capacity for your comprehension, or your comprehension level, your listening. All these abilities will be tested under your intelligence test. Then you have got a psychomotor test. It is merely to find the physical strength, or how well you, there are certain jobs which require your finger and eye movement or eye contact. So how well you perform there, all those things tested under your psychomotor test. Then you have got a personality test. This is merely to know what are your personal traits, or what are your interests, or if at all your personal traits and interests match their job profile, they'll be allowing you, or they'll be selecting you for a particular post. For example, an HR post. Then you have got a vocational test. Vocational test is to identify the candidate's most suitable occupation, or in other words, you can say that every person has got their own interest areas. So under vocational test, they just test what are the areas which you are good, or what are your strengths, and whether they can take your strength to meet their organizational expectations. This is what is being done under vocational test. And last is assessment centers. So by the term assessment centers, that doesn't mean that it is an institution, but assessment centers are where all the employees will be given a case, or here individuals from various departments are brought together, and they'll have to spend 2 or 3 days. So they'll have to work on a particular project or particular case, whereby they will be analyzed, or they will be assessed by an expert team. And what happens is that these expert team will analyze them, make a report and submit it to the top level management. And the top level management can decide whether the particular candidate will have to be promoted for the manager post. So basically assessment centers are technique for selecting and promoting managers, and this report is also used for training and development purpose. So these are the 3 methods of selection techniques, or these are the 3 instruments under selection techniques. 1, interview. 2 test, and 3 is assessment centers. And these these are not the only selection techniques or instruments. You have variety of selection techniques and instruments, but these are the basic selection techniques and instruments used in an organization, and they have their own merits and demerits, because certain thing, when you involve certain experts for analyzing you or assessing the candidates, are expensive, are time consuming. So these are some of the demerits that are happening when you employ certain techniques or instruments. Now, having told what is selection, do you think that recruitment and selection are both one and the same? Well, let's see. So, you have recruitment, you have selection, and if you feel that both recruitment and selection are one and the same, I'm sorry, you're wrong, because recruitment is always a positive aspect, because recruitment is something which attracts people, and under recruitment, they will make a person apply to a particular post. But whereas selection is something negative, why? Because selection is where all the undesirable candidates are taken out, or if at all they don't feel that you are fit enough for the job, they'll take you out. So recruitment is a positive thing, but selection is a negative process, because recruitment always encourages or it urges people to apply for a particular position, whereas selection is where all the undesirable candidates are eliminated. So let's see, recruitment refers to the process of attracting prospective employees to apply for job positions, and selection is concerned with selecting the right candidates from a number of applicants who apply for job positions. Now I'm very much sure that you can understand why by seeing certain advertisement, not everyone applies for a particular position. You see so many advertisements in newspapers, but you cannot find everyone applying for the same position. So this is the difference between recruitment and selection. So before ending, I would like to ask you a question. What comes first? Is it recruitment or selection that comes first? Thank you.